The pounding on my door at 2 a.m. could have been the start of a horror movie, but instead, it became the beginning of my love story. If you've ever felt like life's timing is cruel, stick around, because sometimes, the universe has a plan we can't possibly imagine. My name is Daniel Carter, and 3 years ago, I became both mom and dad to my daughter Lily when my wife lost her battle with cancer. At 34, I was suddenly navigating single parenthood, grief, and trying to keep my career as a marketing executive from imploding. The company I worked for, Horizon Media, had been understanding at first, but patience was wearing thin as deadlines slipped through my fingers like sand. My boss, Alexis Morgan, was a force of nature. At 36, she had climbed the corporate ladder with a determination that both intimidated and inspired everyone around her. Her sleek black hair was always perfectly styled, her wardrobe impeccable, and her expectations sky-high. The office whispered that she was brilliant but cold, all business, no heart. I had always seen glimpses of something more beneath that polished exterior, but our relationship remained strictly professional. That rainy Tuesday night in October started like any other. I had finally gotten Lily to sleep after a meltdown about her science project, spent 2 hours finishing a presentation for the next day, and collapsed into bed around midnight. Sleep came instantly, the deep, desperate kind that parents of young children cherish. Until the knocking started. At first, I thought it was part of a dream. Then it grew more insistent, and I jolted awake, heart hammering against my ribs. Who would be at my door at this hour? My first thought was something had happened to my parents, who lived 3 hours away. The second was that some emergency had befallen Mrs. Winters, my elderly neighbor who sometimes watched Lily. I stumbled through the darkened apartment, flipping on lights as I went, checking the peephole with bleary eyes. Alexis Morgan stood on my doorstep, mascara streaked down her cheeks, her usually perfect hair disheveled, wearing a black cocktail dress that seemed out of place in the fluorescent hallway of my apartment building. I opened the door, confusion washing over me. Alexis? What's wrong? Is there some crisis with the Johnson account? She stared at me, her eyes red-rimmed and glassy. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have come here. This was a mistake. She turned to leave, but something in her expression, a vulnerability I'd never seen before, made me reach out and catch her wrist. Wait. Come inside. Whatever it is, we can figure it out. She hesitated, then nodded, stepping past me into the apartment. I noticed she was shivering slightly, though whether from cold or emotion, I couldn't tell. I'll make some coffee, I said, leading her to my small living room, where toys were scattered across the floor despite my nightly attempts at organization. Sorry about the mess. It's fine, she said, her voice small. It looks like a home. I busied myself in the kitchen, stealing glances at her as she sat perched on the edge of my couch, looking utterly out of place among Lily's stuffed animals and my mismatched furniture. The Alexis Morgan I knew commanded boardrooms and made marketing decisions worth millions without breaking a sweat. This woman seemed lost, almost fragile. When I returned with 2 mugs of coffee, she had removed her heels and was staring at a photo of Lily and me at the beach last summer. She has your smile, Alexis said softly. And her mother's stubbornness, I replied, handing her the coffee. Now, are you going to tell me what brings my boss to my door in the middle of the night? She took a deep breath, wrapping her fingers around the mug as if seeking its warmth. I had a date tonight. Of all the things I expected her to say, that wasn't on the list. I knew Alexis was single, the office gossip mill was efficient if not always accurate, but I had never pictured her dating. Somehow, in my mind, she existed only in the context of work. I take it the date didn't go well? I prompted when she fell silent. A bitter laugh escaped her. That would be an understatement. It was a disaster of epic proportions. What happened? She took a sip of coffee, grimacing slightly. Richard Townsend, CFO of Meridian Technologies. On paper, the perfect match, successful, intelligent, our worlds align. My mother was thrilled when I told her about him. I nodded, trying to ignore the unexpected pang of jealousy at the mention of this Richard person. We've been seeing each other for about a month. Tonight was supposed to be special. He took me to Lumiere, you know, that French restaurant downtown that requires reservations 3 months in advance. Fancy, I said, thinking of the last time I'd eaten out, McDonald's with Lily after her soccer practice. Very. Everything was perfect. The food, the wine, the ambience. And then he proposed. My eyebrows shot up. After a month? Exactly my reaction, she said, setting down her mug. But that wasn't the problem. The problem was what he said afterward. She closed her eyes, as if reliving the moment. He said he'd been looking for someone like me, successful, independent, no messy attachments. He said he appreciated that I was career-focused, and wouldn't expect him to deal with the whole family thing. That we could build something clean and uncomplicated. I winced. Ouch. He meant it as a compliment, she continued, her voice tight. That's the worst part. He thought I'd be pleased that he saw me as this career robot with no desire for anything messy or real. What did you do? I asked, genuinely curious. A small, sad smile touched her lips. I threw my wine in his face, told him he was the last man on earth I'd marry, and walked out. I couldn't help it, I laughed. The image of perfectly composed Alexis Morgan causing a scene in a 5-star restaurant was too delicious. She glared at me for a moment, then her expression softened, and she chuckled too. It was quite dramatic. The entire restaurant went silent. I'm pretty sure someone filmed it. Future viral sensation, I said, raising my mug in a toast. Her smile faded. The thing is, Daniel, what if he's right? What if that's all people see when they look at me? This cold, career-obsessed woman who doesn't want the messy parts of life? The vulnerability in her voice struck me. I'd worked with Alexis for 4 years, and this was the first time I'd seen beneath the polished exterior. Is that what you want? I asked quietly. A life without the messy parts? She looked around my apartment, at the finger paintings taped to the refrigerator, the princess tiara abandoned on the coffee table, the basket of laundry I hadn't had time to fold. No, she whispered. I've just never known how to have both. My mother was a single parent who struggled every day. She drilled into me that success meant never depending on anyone, never letting emotions cloud my judgment. I've built this life where I'm respected and successful, but tonight I realized. What? I realized I'm lonely, Daniel. Deeply, achingly lonely. The raw honesty in her voice resonated with something in me. How many nights had I lain awake feeling exactly the same way? Loving Lily with every fiber of my being, but missing adult connection, partnership, someone to share the burden and the joy. I know something about loneliness, I said softly. Our eyes met, and something shifted in the air between us. I'd always found Alexis attractive, anyone with functioning eyesight would, but I'd buried those feelings deep beneath layers of professional distance and the practical reality of our positions. She was my boss. I was a mess of a single dad. There were 1,000 reasons why this moment shouldn't be happening. And yet. Why did you come here tonight, Alexis? I asked, my voice lower than I intended. She looked away, suddenly fascinated by her manicure. I don't know. I was upset, not thinking clearly. I got in my car and just drove. Somehow I ended up here. At my apartment. At 2 in the morning. I can leave if. No, I said quickly. I'm just trying to understand. She met my eyes again, and this time there was a determination there, a spark of the Alexis I knew from work. The truth? When Richard was talking about his perfect, uncomplicated life, all I could think about was you. My heart stuttered. Me? You, with your messy apartment and your beautiful daughter, and the way you somehow manage to be both vulnerable and strong at the same time. The way you never make excuses, even when life has handed you every reason to. The way you look at Lily like she's your whole world. She took a deep breath. I kept thinking, that's what I want. Not this sterile, perfect existence Richard was offering. I want real. I want messy. I want. What do you want, Alexis? My voice was barely audible now. She stood up suddenly, pacing my small living room. This is insane. I'm your boss. This is completely inappropriate. I should go. Alexis. We can pretend this never happened. I was emotional, not thinking clearly. Alexis. Monday morning, we'll just go back to. Alexis. I stood up, catching her hands in mine, stopping her mid-pace. What do you want? She looked at our joined hands, then up at my face. The mask was completely gone now, leaving only raw truth in its place. You, she whispered. You're the one I want, Daniel. You and all your beautiful complications. The world seemed to stop spinning for a moment. I should have been thinking about the professional ramifications, about the complexity this would add to our lives, about a dozen practical concerns. Instead, all I could think was that Alexis Morgan, brilliant, beautiful, seemingly untouchable Alexis, was standing in my living room at 2 a.m., looking at me like I was something precious. I have a lot of complications, I warned her, even as I stepped closer. I know. Lily is my priority. Always. As she should be. I work weird hours, I sometimes forget important meetings because of school events, and my apartment will never look like it belongs in a magazine. A smile touched her lips. Are you trying to talk me out of this? I'm making sure you know what you're getting into, I said, suddenly serious. Because if we start this, Alexis, I can't have you walking away when it gets hard. Lily has already lost one mother. I won't let her get attached to someone else who disappears. Something fierce flashed in Alexis's eyes. I don't walk away from challenges, Daniel. It's not in my nature. And then, before I could respond, she closed the distance between us and kissed me. Her lips were soft but insistent, and I felt something crack open inside my chest, a door I'd kept locked since Sarah died, suddenly flung wide. I pulled back slightly, resting my forehead against hers. This is going to complicate things at work. She laughed softly. I'm the boss, remember? I'll figure it out. Always in control, I teased. Not always, she admitted, her fingers tracing the stubble on my jaw. Not right now. A small voice from the hallway made us both jump apart like guilty teenagers. Daddy? Who are you talking to? Lily stood in the doorway to the living room, her favorite stuffed elephant clutched to her chest, hair tousled from sleep. Her curious eyes moved from me to Alexis, widening slightly in recognition. That's your boss lady, she said matter-of-factly. From the picture on your desk. I felt heat rise to my face. I did indeed have a photo from last year's company retreat on my desk, with Alexis front and center. I hadn't realized Lily had noticed it. Yes, sweetheart. This is Ms. Morgan. She needed to talk to Daddy about some work stuff. Alexis smoothed her dress, professional mask sliding partially back into place, though her lipstick was smudged from our kiss. Hello, Lily. I'm sorry we woke you. Lily, with the directness only a 7-year-old can manage, tilted her head and asked, were you kissing my dad? I choked on air. Alexis looked like she might spontaneously combust from embarrassment. Lily, that's not, I began. Yes, Alexis interrupted, surprising me. She knelt down to Lily's level, her expression gentle but serious. I was kissing your dad. Is that okay with you? Lily considered this with grave importance, clutching her elephant tighter. Do you make him happy? He gets sad sometimes, but he tries to hide it. My heart squeezed painfully in my chest. I hadn't realized Lily noticed that either. Alexis glanced up at me, then back to my daughter. I hope I can make him happy, Lily. I'd like to try, if that's all right with you. Lily's face scrunched in thought. Do you know how to make pancakes? Daddy's are always burned on one side. A startled laugh escaped Alexis. I do, actually. I make very good pancakes. With chocolate chips? Definitely with chocolate chips. Lily nodded, decision made. Okay. You can kiss him. But not too much, it's gross. And with that proclamation, she turned and padded back to her bedroom, elephant swinging by her side. When she was gone, I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Well, that's Lily. No filter, all heart. Alexis stood up, smoothing her dress again, a habit I was beginning to recognize as a nervous gesture. She's wonderful. She is, I agreed. And apparently, she's given us her blessing, contingent on your pancake-making abilities. Alexis laughed, the sound lighter than I'd ever heard from her. I wasn't lying. I do make excellent pancakes. I look forward to finding that out, I said, reaching for her hand. Maybe tomorrow morning? Her eyes widened slightly. Are you asking me to stay? Just to sleep, I clarified quickly. It's late, you've had an emotional night, and apparently we're having a pancake breakfast in a few hours. The vulnerability returned to her expression. Are you sure? About all of this? Us? I thought about all the complications this would bring, the workplace gossip, the logistics of dating as a single parent, the risk of opening my heart again. Then I looked at Alexis, really looked at her, not as my intimidating boss, but as a woman who had driven to my apartment in the middle of the night because something in her recognized something in me. I'm sure, I said simply. You're the one I want too, Alexis. Complications and all. She smiled then, a real smile that transformed her face and made my heart skip. Then I'd love to stay for pancakes. 6 months later, Alexis moved into our apartment. A year after that, we bought a house with a backyard for Lily and room for the baby boy who would join our family the following spring. The workplace complications sorted themselves out. Alexis arranged for me to report to another executive, though the office gossip was unavoidable for a while. Life didn't suddenly become perfect. It remained messy, complicated, and sometimes overwhelming. Alexis had to learn how to balance her career ambitions with family life. I had to learn to let someone else help carry my burdens. Lily had moments of confusion and jealousy as she adjusted to sharing her dad. We argued about schedules and priorities and whose turn it was to do the dishes. But every night, I went to sleep beside a woman who had chosen the complicated path, who had knocked on my door at 2 a.m. and changed all our lives. And every morning, we woke up and chose each other again. Sometimes the most beautiful love stories begin with a disruption, a knock on the door when you least expect it, a moment of courage when someone steps forward and says, "You're the one I want." If you're waiting for your own unexpected knock, don't give up hope. And if you hear it, be brave enough to answer. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories about finding love in unexpected places. Share in the comments if you've ever had a moment where life surprised you with exactly what you needed.